Next, we'll have Daryl Mitchell. He is the Director of Strategic Sourcing at DOAS, and he's going to talk about statewide contracts. So, Daryl, if you'll go ahead and get started.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, as my cohorts have expressed, we appreciate the opportunity to come before you today, and on behalf of the other 21 men and women purchasing professionals that I work with, appreciate the opportunity to share some of what we have available to you, as well as some insight into what we'll be working on in the coming year. We're basically strategic sourcing, a centralized purchasing activity where we put in place statewide contracts. Again, across the state, each of our state activities have their own purchasing departments, but where we have needs that are common amongst several groups and compile a large amount of spend, we centralize that procurement activity in an effort to take advantage of volume related discounts. At strategic sourcing, we're primarily broken into three groups because we have found that different skill sets are more effective in purchasing different groupings of commodities as you gain insight into that industry and the tools and techniques that you'll use to negotiate agreements. Our three categories are our goods category, which represents all of our commodities. That's headed up by Clarence Ingram. You'll see his information on the top. Three of his key staff that head up a few of the subgroupings are Mario Morales. He specializes in those commodity fields associated with operations and facilities. Carl Hall, he manages procurements that are associated with fleet-related commodities as well as utilities, natural gas, gasoline, things of that nature. And Carol Kennedy Sims, she's over our sciences group, which is biological supplies, generic drugs, and things related to those particular commodity areas. Our services group is our second subcomponent. And again, as the name indicates, it's primarily related to service or labor-related purchases. That's headed up by Rick Beal, our group category manager, and some of his key areas of influence are one, Deborah White. She looks at fleet and infrastructure facilities from a service perspective. Dana Greer, she heads up our staffing, and we have some mail-related contracts that we'll touch on a piece here shortly. And Matt Taylor, he deals with our print and copy, print and copy type of contracts, rapid copy. We even have some for printing services, as well as a new contract we have in place, which kind of is an outlier in that particular grouping, but we have a contract for security services. So he's heading that category up for us. And lastly, but certainly not least, we have an IT department, our computer geeks. We provide both hardware and software related contracts. That's both materials or commodity related information technology as well as services, so a combination there. That's headed up by Jeff Rolston, and some of his key areas are headed up by Jan Pedalewski. We have a few networking related contracts, and she heads up that space for us. Beverly Dennison, actually, he's recently married. She heads up our computer hardware and ancillary services related to PCs and desktop computers and things of that nature. And Elizabeth Eason, she heads up or manages those procurements associated with software, as well as what we're calling now managed print, which is multifunctional devices, those that can take care of fax, copy, printing, and scanning needs. I'd like to give a quick overview of state purchasing. We have what we call our portfolio. That's the entire list of contracts that we have in place that we manage on an ongoing basis. We currently have 71 different types of statewide contracts, and they encompass 359 suppliers. Of interesting note is that's up about 50 suppliers from our previous years, and part of that is our moves to try to put contracts in place that can meet the flexibility of differing customer needs by offering a variety of suppliers in a single space. Say like for networking equipment. Instead of having one supplier try to provide all the different types of networking equipment and configurations associated with that, we have 18 different suppliers. So to give a wide breadth of choice to our customers, such as yourself, as they try to nail down those particular needs. Referring back to the three groups that I just mentioned and went into a little bit of detail about, those 71 contracts are basically, were primarily heavy in the commodities group. As you can imagine, it's a lot easier to put a contract in place that covers a broad spectrum like the entire state of Georgia when it's something that can be bought, purchased, and delivered, such as a commodity, a tangible item. Followed by our services group. It's a little more difficult to employ labor across a spectrum as large as the state, but we have 20 of those 71 contracts in the service area space. And followed by IT, which rounds out the 71 by providing 17 different contracts associated with PC hardware, software, and networking equipment, as I alluded to earlier. Each year, we have what we call a pipeline. That is just the initiatives or the procurements initiatives, the sourcing events that we intend to initiate or partake in the coming year. Generally, history has shown that we identify about 21 different types of contracts that we do. Our record has been we're coming in the 12 to 15 area and the ones that we're able to complete. For any of you that have any experience in procurement, you know sometimes it's difficult to stay on track with all the different parameters and things that can happen when trying to acquire supplies and services. This year, speaking fiscal year 15, which ours begins in July, running all the way through the end of June, we've again identified 21 contracts that we intend to initiate some action on and hopefully result in statewide contracts prior to the end of the year. As you can imagine, we have 71 contracts. I have about 17 active staff that actually perform cradle-to-grave management of these contracts. I call them babies because they take about 9 months from start to finish. So you can imagine that having 71 of those, and they each last about 5 years, it takes us quite a bit of effort to keep them refreshed. So the 19 out of the 21 contracts that we have, the 19-2 split, the 19 represents rebids or contracts that we have already sourced at some point in the past, and their useful life or their performance period has expired or is close to expiring, and we see the need to continue that service, and so we refresh it. So we already have some experience in that space and are generally able to improve upon what we've done before. Then we always have a few that are brand new, something that have never been put in place from a statewide enterprise perspective before. I've listed a few of the contracts that we have, a few of those 21 that I thought might be of particular interest and broad reaching to local communities such as yourself. We're currently embarking on and are somewhat down the path on an auto and bus contract. That's one we already have in place but are looking to improve upon that, both in selection and price. Maintenance, repair, and operational supplies is another. We've actually taken a couple cracks at this over the past couple years, and based on input from our customers, including some of you all, I would imagine, we've decided that improvements needed to be implemented sooner than allowing the expected contract life of that to exist. So we've done that one a couple times and continue to try to improve on that. Our gas and diesel contract is about 5 years old, and generally that's the useful life that we've designated for our contract. So that's one that will be that is also on the docket to take a look at this year. Temporary staffing, again, one we have in our portfolio at the time and actively up and running. Actually, 2 contracts. One associated with clerical and light industrial. Okay, one associated with clerical and light industrial, and the other one with IT related labor categories. That's one that's taken us a little bit longer. We started it last year, but We are in the throes of that, so that's on our docket. Rapid copy and digital print, another. That's your multiple copy, 1,000 copies of this and 500 copies of that type of structure. Also included in that will be our digital print, in addition to the rapid copy contract. Again, that's one we have in place. When we're calling managed print services, that's a contract that we're combining. That's your multifunctional devices, those single devices that can take care of copy, fax, scanning, those type of activities where you can eliminate the use of desktop printers, and you can network those to provide some savings and efficiencies for your offices there. Another contract in our IT space is specialized network equipment. We already have a network equipment contract in our portfolio, but this is one that the IT folks have identified as niche or specialized, not currently included on our network equipment contract. Lastly, one I'd like to touch on is our two-way radios. Our Georgia Technology Authority currently has a contract in place for two-way radios. We've recently inherited that from them, and it's at a point in time where we're going to initiate some resourcing effort. I did want to emphasize that both the 71 existing contracts that we have, as well as any of the new ones that result in our execution of our pipeline, are available for use for local communities. We primarily, local governments, I meant to say, we primarily generate the type of contracts that we include in our portfolio based on the needs of state entities. But once those contracts are in place, and to be honest, while they're in the process of being conducted, much as the 21 pipeline contracts that I initiated, that I mentioned earlier, they help us develop that particular need. And when that need, and local governments can also participate in that process. We publish the pipeline on our website, and if you see an area or a contract that we are potentially embarking upon, and it has a particular interest to you, you can contact the issuing officer for that and provide input and be on one of those teams. But the real point is, once these contracts are in place, regardless of how they got there, based on state need or some local government needs that we've identified, they are available for use for all local government activities on a convenience basis. Use them if you like. I'd like to touch a little bit on our strategy that we use in putting statewide contracts in place. What is of value of these contracts? How are we striving to put contracts in place that offer a value that might be over and above what an individual entity is able to procure? We use, much as our name denotes, strategic sourcing as our principle. And the principles of strategic sourcing are basically trying to leverage spend and volume. We all are familiar with the SAMS model, that the more you buy of a particular item, as in bulk, the lower the unit price normally is. So we just institute that particular tenet or principle by aggregating the spend of both our state entities and local governments and political subdivisions that we are able to identify, to bring that leverage to market, to say, hey, this is not a $10,000 DOT contract, but it's a multi-million-dollar statewide contract that DOT, as well as many others, can use. So we're really looking at trying to leverage volume and aggregate spend to be a bigger player in the market and bring more power to our negotiating ability as we go through that particular process. We've been somewhat successful in the past. Under the Saves Time and Money bullet, you'll see we kind of started keeping track of benefits or savings opportunities back in fiscal year 12, and from fiscal year 12 through 14, we've been able to execute actually 34 contracts. Again, a mix of rebids and new contracts. I think they totaled about $460 million in historical spend. Well, from that, we've been able to identify cost reductions of nearly 56 million, or just over 56 million, about a 12.2% clip. So we're real excited about that. And listed under that, we have some of the heavy hitters, the bigger success stories that we've been able to accomplish along that journey. You'll see AT, UTVs, and golf carts. Again, we realized a 43% savings. And when we talk about that reduction, what we're looking at, if we had a previous statewide contract in place, we're looking at the prices that we were previously paying as compared to the new pricing under the contract that we're about to embark on. If it is a brand new space, then we're gathering information from Georgia, that being our state activities, local government activities, trying to identify some benchmark pricing to make that comparison. So that's just to reiterate or bring home the fact that those reductions are based on real numbers and real values, and we are putting some analytics behind that. Just in addition to, if I can back up a bit, in addition to just identifying the spend, one of the techniques that's used in strategic sourcing is, okay, yeah, you have a large volume of spend, but to really take advantage of pricing models, we need to, or volume and discount pricing, we need to analyze within that space of those multiple items that are available, which ones are we buying the most of? And so we have an analytics team that digs into and dives into the spend information to try to pull out those particular areas and items that we buy the most of. And we use that information right in our cost sheets so that it carries a larger weight in the determination of who the winner will be than giving us pricing for some of those other items that we buy the least of, that we buy in much fewer quantities. So that's the other aspect of that. Our CCTV products, service and installation, again, another 40% win for us when we look at the benefits we were able to do. Biological and lab supplies, that was a rebid. Not only did we increase the number of suppliers that we had in that space, but we also were able to show a significant benefit over the prices we were previously paying. Office supplies, I think, is one that's near and dear to everybody's heart. They use those. There are all kinds of suppliers out there, both Georgia-based as well as some of the large hitters. I think our current partner, I know our current partner is Staples, but that was an area where the spend analysis really did justice in our ability to be able to drive home some savings and take advantage of a highly competitive market. You'll see there two percentages. That's one we did twice. The first time we put it in place, we found out that it could be a little more user-friendly, and so we did it again. So that's kind of a combined savings over a 2-year period. Brand new, I think I mentioned, is security services. That's brand new to our portfolio, up and running, growing every day. Generally, when you do a brand new contract, when you centralize it, when you aggregate it for the first time, that's where you see a significant amount of your cost reduction and being able to do that, and we think we were successful in that area. And just rounding out with leasing and auto rental, another contract that we refreshed, added a leasing piece to it, and were able to generate some savings there, some benefits. So just a testament analytically that this particular process of strategic sourcing and the principles that it's based on, it can work and does work in certain spaces. And so we've tried to use that to provide contracts that are of real value to our customers as they go out and try to procure or acquire products and services to help their operations. All of these contracts are resident in what we call Team Georgia Marketplace. It's a part of our website, helps get you access to that particular portal. In there you will find all of our suppliers. You can search by item you need, type of contract. You can even search by particular supplier. Pricing is included. Kind of an Amazon, eBay related experience. Several of our contracts have pictures. The ability to compare pricing amongst contracts that we have where we have multiple providers, things like that. So you're able to shop, as local governments, you're able to browse and shop through our TGM, but we've recently introduced another aspect of that portal called our P-Card Marketplace, where you can actually do some purchasing activity. The window, our TGM is primarily based for people on our PeopleSoft platform, and it's kind of connected to the requisition and PO process to automate that. But like I mentioned, we have recently introduced what we call the P-Card Marketplace, which provides the ability of local governments, so those non-PeopleSoft users, to be able to do the whole purchase, the whole search and acquisition of particular products and services. I think we don't have all 71 contracts on there at this time, but what we tried to do is put some of the more popular ones on there. So I encourage you to take an opportunity to search through there and shop and hopefully meet some of your needs. I think one of the biggest benefits that we also provide is on our statewide contracts, we provide the supplier and contract management. If you have particular issues associated with something you bought in terms of delivery or quality, you don't have to try to resolve those particular issues on your own. We can bring to bear the leverage of the state on our particular suppliers and can help you get resolution on any of those issues. We do exercise full and open competition. We have a protest process. So once the contract makes it to our portfolio, it's fully vetted and has gone through all of the public procurement processes that exist. The next slide is just a collage to give you an idea or a snapshot of some of our partners currently. Again, there's 359 of these bad boys, so I encourage you again to visit Team Georgia Marketplace to get a holistic view of everything we have to offer. But here are a few of those contracts that we think, or those suppliers that we think provide real benefit and have a real cross-pollination of based on the services that they offer, or service and products that they offer. I think lastly, one of the activities that we've undertaken, much is a part of what I'm doing right now, is we realize that we want to market some of these activities. Sometimes we think that just being in the state, and we've been around for a long time, and statewide contracts have been around for a long time, we think that everyone already knows about what's going on. We quickly realized that there's a huge untapped potential out there. So what we've tried to do is have a three-prong approach to marketing some of our activities. We want our suppliers to get out and market. We, as state purchasing, want to be visible to our customers, to answer questions and gather input from them as we're going into a space in terms of their needs. And we also want to use our existing customers, word of mouth, when they have a positive experience with one of our contracts, to share with some of their contemporaries in the different spaces that they operate. In this process, we've kind of identified what we call our top marketing priorities. And to be honest, they just are those type of contracts we have in place that we think touch pretty much everyone. I mean, everybody kind of needs furniture. We have recently a new furniture contract, 98 suppliers, up from 60 or so previously. It's based on a discount volume. We've added some ancillary services where they can come in and do some consultation. If you don't know what furniture you want already, they can provide some insight into the design of your workspace. As I mentioned earlier, office supplies. We've done this a couple times. It's a very competitive environment. Blood in the water for sharks type of arrangement. So we've got great pricing, next day delivery, dedicated account managers. Really a great opportunity for folks to be able to fill those needs. Administrative and police vehicles. Again, we think this is an area that touches local governments in addition to state activities. We were able to get some good pricing. We even have prompt payment discounts. If you're able to pay within a specified period of time, I believe generally 10 days, some of our suppliers offer a discount associated with that. Computer software. This was a difficult one. A lot of different configurations and needs out there, but we think we put something in place that's a robust solution. Multiple suppliers. Again, we reduced prices from what we were historically spending from in upwards of 10%. Support, training, consultation, installation. Tried to provide a full gamut of product and services in that space. Tied to that closely, network equipment. Again, we've expanded our product category, our supply base there, because we realized the different and diverse needs that are out there. Added a leasing and finance piece for some of the high-priced equipment, so that becomes an option in terms of your acquisition methodology. Certified audio visual, computer peripherals, again, out of our IT space. IT is big these days, so we want to be able to provide solutions that cover the entire gamut across that space. And last but not least, a minor construction contract that we have. It's called Indefinite Quantity Construction Services. Generally relegated and delegated to those type of construction projects that are renovations, alterations, minor construction. This isn't a solution for any new construction projects that you might have. It's kind of based on a price book. So we've gone out, or our partner has gone out and developed a price book which captures all the materials and labor categories across the state of Georgia in terms of unit pricing. For example, 100, how is sheetrock? 100 8x4 sheetrock. We have a particular price for sheetrock, and that unit price will be multiplied by 100. So there's a price book that has pre-priced all of the item, materials and labor associated with construction projects. So what happens is you identified a particular project that you want. Our consultant comes in and helps you identify the types of material and the types of labor categories that you need, as well as the quantities of material and quantities of labor that it will take to accomplish that project. Then it's a simple multiplication problem. You take the number, the unit price of the material that you need, multiplied by the quantity, and that rolls out to be the number. You take the hourly rate for a plumber, you determine how many hours you need that particular plumber, and it multiplies out to give an extended price. All the extended prices of the construction project are then added together, and you are ready. Your proposal is in place. Something that's unique about this is in our history of doing construction related contracts, it takes about 6 to 9 months from start to finish to get one of these done. This process is expedited, and you can actually, from project inception to the date you have a proposal in your hand, ranges from the 30 to 45 day cycle. We've shown that not inclusive of that time savings, that traditionally this type of method, which is heavily in use in the federal government as well as some other states, an 8 to 15% savings is available associated with that. We won't say that this type of construction project will win if you're out doing, if you bid this out and accept a low bid project, but when you look at the entire start to finish, historically, these have been shown to be very effective. Very quick way to get some unique, smaller volume, smaller dollar construction projects done. I think my time is drawn to a close here, but at this point, I appreciate the opportunity to share some of the products and services that we have available. Are there any questions with any of the information I provided?
There is a question. Is there an annual fee involved to become a member of the Team Marketplace?
No fees.
And they can just sign up on the website, is that correct, to be able to utilize the features of the Team Marketplace and the contracts, to view the contracts, is that correct?
Yes. Our TGM Marketplace does require a login, but we have set up credentials for guests. So they can simply log as a guest to browse and identify items that might meet their needs.
Do we have any more questions? I have a question about the federal GSA contracts.
Yes, ma'am.
Does the state closely follow the GSA contracts, or there's probably more items or multiple divisions of the GSA that may not be available through the state contract, so they should really be both, or should they?
Well, there is, that's kind of on GSA's playing field. They've identified a few programs that they allow states to participate in.
Okay.
And that means that if it's not identified in a specific program, then the state is not authorized to purchase off of GSA. One of those programs is IT Schedule 70, I believe. GSA has delegated authority for states to be able to use GSA contracts, Schedule 70 only, to procure some of their IT needs. But we're not allowed, or we're not authorized to use those contracts unless they are designated on a particular program, of which there are currently 6.
Okay.
Another one is federal emergency disaster. If a state of emergency or disaster has been declared, now that opens up all the schedules, I believe, to be used just for the period of that emergency. I can provide the facilitator information around those 6 specific programs, but again, they are specific and we do not have access to all of the GSA offerings.
Just another question. If there are some items that are relevant to local governments that the state does not purchase because the state doesn't have a use for them, would it be something that the state would entertain to take a look at doing some offering it under a state contract price?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. Again, in general, we like to have or purchase those type of products that are of common need across multiple activities. But an example of that is school buses. The state did not have a particular need from a state perspective for a school bus contract. But because of our affiliation with the Department of Education and their affiliation with county schools and things like that, we were able to convince our particular management that this is a contract that we think can bring value to the entire state if it was procured from a centralized perspective. And we were given a thumbs up to be able to do that. All of the contracts that I talked about on that pipeline, we have to prepare a business case to our upper management that proves to them that it makes sense to expend time and resources in an effort to put a particular contract in place. So we provide that business case to them where it makes sense. They allow us to trek down that road, and school buses was one of those opportunities. But we welcome any opportunity. Again, that slide, I think the first slide that I talked about, which is a breakout of the 3 groups, if you contact that manager, or even if you can specifically go down into one of those issuing officers based on the categories we provided, and you have some ideas, we would love to hear them, love to entertain them, and love to potentially be able to provide you some response or some solution to being able to acquire that.
Okay, thank you. That's been very helpful. If we have no more questions, I do want to thank DOAS for helping us with our webinar today, and I want to remind you that you can, at the end of this session, you can download the files that's located in the file box so that you will have access to the presentations used today. And we hope to have the recorded webinar available on our website probably by the end of next week, hopefully. Please feel free to call on DOAS if you need them, and be on the lookout for our next announcement of the webinar that we will be holding on November the 17th.